The small outpost on the edge of the Helian frontier lay beneath twin suns that warmed the pale soil in gentle waves. It was a lonely place, where traders and explorers came only by chance or necessity. Among the few settlers was a bright-eyed, human child named Mira. She lived in a modest dome home with her family, who had come to study the strange plants and animals of this distant world. Every day, Mira wandered beyond the safety fence to collect smooth stones and colorful flowers, her laughter echoing through the dusty air. One morning, as the twin suns rose in rosy arcs across the sky, Mira heard a soft cry. Curious, she left her usual path and crept between the silver-leafed ferns that grew near an abandoned mining shaft. There, curled among broken rocks, was a small creature unlike any she had ever seen. Its body was the size of a rabbit's, covered in iridescent scales that shimmered with violet and emerald light. Two large dark eyes blinked at her, filled with pain. One tiny wing lay crumpled, its thin membrane torn. Mira's heart pounded with both fear and compassion. She remembered lessons from her parents about dangerous wildlife, but something about this creature's gentle gaze melted her caution. Carefully, she knelt and hummed a soft, soothing tune her mother often sang. The creature's eyes widened as Mira reached out a steady hand. It did not flee. Instead, it let her touch its warm scales. Knowing she had to act quickly, Mira ran, back to the dome. She fetched a small first aid kit and a clean cloth. Returning to the hatchling, she lay it on a soft piece of cloth and cleaned its wound with a mild antiseptic. She wrapped the torn wing in a delicate bandage. The creature whimpered softly but did not struggle. Its breathing grew calmer under Mira's gentle touch. Over the next few days, Mira brought food she thought the alien might like. Sweet fruit, pulped into juice, leafy greens, and even a tiny pill of concentrated protein powder used for human nutrition. She fed the hatchling by hand. Each meal seemed to strengthen it. Day by day, its eye grew brighter, and the scales regained their shine. The bandage on the wing was soon replaced by a lighter improvised splint that allowed the wing to rest without too much pressure. Mira visited the creature every morning and evening, speaking to it in her soft voice. She named it Lyri, after the star pattern that shone just over the dome at night. In the quiet hours, she told Lyri about Earth, the great blue planet far away, and about her dreams of exploring other worlds. Lyri would blink and nudge her finger as if listening. By the end of the first week, the outpost's resident xenobiologist, Dr. Havel, noticed Mira's absence from her chores. He found her sitting by the fern patch, humming to the now strong hatchling. "What have you got there, Mira?" he asked, crouching beside her. Startled, Mira held Lyri protectively in her lap. "It's hurt," she explained. "I found it injured and I'm helping it feel better." Dr. Havel peered at the scales, then at Mira's gentle hands. His trained eyes saw medical opportunity. "We should bring it inside the lab," he said kindly. "There I can run scans and give it better care." Mira agreed, though her heart clenched at the thought of her friend being taken away. But she trusted Dr. Havel. They carried Lyri into the lab where bright lights and strange machines awaited. For the first time, the hatchling's eyes widened in fear at the unfamiliar surroundings. Mira whispered soothing words as Dr. Havel placed Lyri on an exam table. Over the next days, Dr. Havel studied Lyri's biology. He noted that the creature was part of a species never recorded by human science. He marveled at the wing structure and the complex pattern of the scales. Lyri's heart rate and respiration improved under Dr. Havel's expert care. Mira stayed close, reading her storybooks and softly talking of home. One night, the lab's lights dimmed early to conserve power. Mira lay awake on a cot beside Lyri's tank. She watched the creature sleep, its wing now gently floating in an advanced support harness. Lyri's breathing was even. Mira reached out to stroke a scale, only to find the membrane open. The hatchling stirred and blinked, then suddenly stretched its wing. In a graceful arc, it unfolded the injured wing fully, testing it. Within moments, Lyri fluttered once, then soared upward, its delicate wings beating softly. Mira gasped with joy. The hatchling landed on her shoulder. She pressed a gentle kiss to its head. "You're strong," she whispered. You're going to be okay. That moment forged a bond between them. Though their time together had been short, the kindness of a young human girl had saved a life and sent ripples far beyond the dusty plains of the frontier outpost. Months passed and Leary grew into a graceful adolescent of her kind. Her scales deepened into richer hues, the emerald and violet now swirling like nebula clouds. Mira grew too, taller and more thoughtful, her eyes often fixed on the horizon, beyond the outpost fences, dreaming of the stars. The two friends shared adventures, exploring hidden caves where bioluminescent plants glowed, racing swift desert winds as Leary carried Mira on her back, and quiet nights under the twin moons, sharing stories of home and hope. When the day came for Dr. Havel's research ship to return to Earth orbit, preparations began to transport Leary to a secure habitat for study. Mira's heart swelled with pride that her friend would receive the best care and perhaps become a symbol of human-alien friendship. Yet she also felt loss, as if part of herself would go with the hatchling. On the morning of departure, Mira stood beside Leary's sealed habitat module. The hatchling now towered over her, her wings arching high above the dome roofs. Leary pressed her head to the glass, then touched the panel with her slender, clawed finger. Mira stepped forward and placed her hand over Leary's gesture. Their eyes met through the barrier. The bond they shared needed no words. As the transport shuttle lifted off under the violet dawn sky, Mira watched until the hull of the research ship was a tiny speck against the rising suns. She felt a quiet ache in her chest. But within that ache was warmth, hope that Leary would remember her kindness, as she would never forget her friend. Unseen by Mira, within the hatchling's growing mind, a memory of a human child's outstretched hand was etched deep. That simple act of compassion would bloom into something far greater than either could imagine. A promise that kindness can echo across time and space, shaping destinies in ways no one could foresee. And so, the ripple from that childhood moment set in motion a chain of events that would one day lead an alien queen to journey across galaxies, seeking the human who once saved her life. High above the glittering spiral of the Corinthian galaxy, on a world of swirling violet clouds and sapphire oceans, stood the grand palace of Empress Ixtar. Its tall spires of polished crystal caught every ray of light, casting rainbows across the marble courtyards. Within these halls, the alien queen ruled a realm of 1,000 star systems, each world bound by her word and protected by her mighty fleet. Ixtar sat upon her throne, a curved seat carved from a single immense gemstone. Around her, advisors and nobles in shimmering robes knelt, presenting reports on solar unrest, trade disputes, and growing threats at the empire's borders. Her dark eyes flicked over each dossier, her mind both attentive and distant. In the back of her memory burned the image of a small human child, a gentle hand reaching out, a wounded hatchling's grateful eyes. Decades had passed since that fateful day on the frontier outpost. The young hatchling she once was had grown into the cunning, visionary leader known across the stars. Under her guidance, the Ixtar Empire had brought peace to warring planets, forged alliances with distant species, and spread prosperity through technology. Yet for all her triumphs, her heart held a private longing. She had never forgotten the human who saved her life. Her chief advisor, Lord Rahael, stepped forward with a quiet bow. Your Majesty, the sector governors report renewed skirmishes near the Helios Rift. They request additional reinforcements. Ixtar's hand floated above the glowing holomap, tracing the lines of star lanes. She considered the request, for a moment then nodded. Dispatch 2 cruisers and 1 frigate. Let our presence calm the tension. Her voice was soft, yet carried the weight of destiny. As Rahael turned to relay the order, she closed her eyes. In the silence that followed, her thoughts reached across time and space. She remembered Mira's laughter, bright as starlight, echoing through silver ferns. She remembered the hatchling's first flutter, the timid heartbeat that grew strong. The memory gave her strength now, proof that compassion, not fear, shaped her empire. Yet caution whispered at the edges of her mind. To keep her heart's secret hidden was wise. Many in the court believed that sentimentality weakened rulers. They spoke of cold logic and ruthless decisions as marks of a strong sovereign. But Ixtar knew better. She had seen how kindness healed wounds no weapon could touch. Later that day, in the private sanctum of the palace, Ixtar convened with her most trusted officers. The chamber was subdued, silver walls veined with pale blue, and soft orbs of light that floated like captive fireflies. At the center hovered a three-dimensional star chart, each pinprick of light representing a world under her reign. "Find her," she said simply, her gaze steady on the hollow projection. "Mira, the human who healed me." Captain Jal, commander of the Empress's personal guard, inclined his head. "We have compiled every record of human colonies within our sphere. We have cross-referenced missing persons, unusual medical testimonials, and frontier legends." Ixtar watched as ribbons of data streamed across the chart, highlighting dozens of worlds settled by humans. "And?" Captain Jal met her eyes. "There is a single entry that matches your description. A human xenobiologist named Mira Andal, stationed on the planet Solus Prime. She vanished from public record after her research on unknown species." A thrill stirred in Ixtar's chest. She had never put a name to her memory, only a face in the dust of that outpost. Now, a name emerged at the far edge of the galaxy. "Prepare a personal envoy," she commanded. "No weapons, no threat. I wish for an open conversation." Captain Jal hesitated. "Ma'am, approaching a world under the jurisdiction of another empire could be construed as provocation." Ixtar's voice grew firmer. "Then we do it with the utmost respect. We travel under a banner of peace. I will go in person." A hush fell over the room. None had seen Ixtar leave the palace in over a decade. To journey among common folk was near unthinkable for a sovereign of her stature, and yet, her resolve did not waver. That evening, in her private quarters, Ixtar stood before a tall mirror of polished obsidian. She inspected her reflection. Regal armor of silvery alloy, intricate filigree of her royal house, and the luminous crown that hovered above her brow. She paused on the memory of young Mira pressing a bandage to her torn wing. A soft glow of gratitude warmed her spirit. She spoke aloud, though no one else stood by. "I was once saved by a child's kindness. Now I must return that kindness." Draping a cloak over her shoulders, she summoned the palace steward. "Arrange the Celestial. Dove to depart at first light. Inform the crew that this is an unarmed mission." The steward bowed deeply. "Yes, Your Majesty." Night fell over the palace, and the twin moons rose in silent vigil. In the gardens below, bioluminescent flowers shimmered in silver-blue hues. Ixtar walked among them, alone but for the soft hum of the palace realms. The scent of alien lilies reminded her of the frontier ferns where young Mira had found her. She breathed deeply, steeling herself for the journey ahead. On the edge of the garden, she paused by a reflecting pool. Raising her hand, she touched the water's surface. Ripples spread outward, distorting her reflection into shifting patterns. She allowed herself a fleeting moment of vulnerability, her own memory etched in the gentle waves. Behind her, Captain Jal appeared. He spoke quietly. "Shall I ready the staff, Your Majesty?" She turned, her expression serene. "No, only the pilot and navigator. We travel light." He hesitated, concern in his gaze. "If you insist, ma'am. But know that the courts will raise questions." She nodded. "Let them ask. I answer only to the truth in my heart." As the palace bells tolled midnight, Ixtar made her way back inside. She paused at the throne. Room doors, once so familiar, now strangely distant. Taking a final glance at the emptiness of her seat, she whispered, "I will return." At dawn, the celestial dove, an elegant vessel shaped like a soaring bird, lifted from the palace skyport. Its wings of refractive metal caught the rising sunlight, sending prisms of light across the courtyard. Inside the cockpit, Ixtar stood beside the pilot, her cloak drawn close. Before her, lay the vastness of space, speckled with distant suns and unknown worlds. Somewhere out there on a small planet of blue and green lived the human who changed her destiny. As the stars slipped by, Ixtar closed her eyes. She let the hum of the engines lull her into quiet determination. The search had begun, and with it, the hope that the child of long ago still lived and would remember her. In that moment, the alien queen, ruler of galaxies, felt again the humble spark of a child's compassion, and she vowed that no force in the universe would stop her from repaying that gift. Soon she would stand before Mira. Soon she would say, "Thank you." Until then, each jump through hyperspace carried her closer to the promise born on a dusty frontier outpost under twin suns. And so, beneath the silent gaze of distant stars, the next chapter of their story unfolded. On Solus Prime, the world of emerald forests and silver rivers, Mira Andal moved through her days with quiet purpose. Now in her mid-30s, she was a respected xenobiologist at the Aurum Research Institute. Each morning, she greeted her team in the glass-walled laboratory, where strange alien specimens lay in transparent tanks and delicate instruments hummed softly. Mira's eyes shone with curiosity as she guided a new intern through the process of extracting luminescent proteins from a deep-sea creature. Science to her was a bridge between worlds. Unbeknownst to Mira, high above her planet, Imperial scouts watched every public transmission from Solus Prime. The Ixtar Empire's intelligence network had intercepted a record of her research, a study on the regenerative properties of an unclassified alien species. That study bore a remarkable resemblance to the hatchling she once rescued. Reports filtered down to Captain Jal, human xenobiologist, pioneer in alien biology, no known ties to political factions. Everything matched the Empress's memory. Captain Jal stood before Ixtar in the private war room of the Celestial Dove. Holographic screens displayed live feeds of Mira's campus, her lectures, and her interactions with other scientists. Ixtar watched silently, drinking in every detail. The way Mira's hair caught the sunlight in the reflection, the soft confidence in her voice as she spoke of alien rights, the gentle touch she offered frightened specimens. Each moment reminded the Empress of the small child who had once laid a bandage on her wing. "Is she aware?" Ixtar asked, her tone measured. Jal shook his head. "No indication. She believes these are natural occurrences of her life's work. We have maintained strict distance. All our observations are covert." Ixtar nodded. "Good. We must not alarm her. I will meet Mira, but only when we are certain." Meanwhile, on the ground, Mira's life was full of routine challenges and small triumphs. She spent afternoons in the field, collecting samples in the lush rainforest bordering the city. She marveled at how alien plants could regenerate leaves overnight and how certain insects carried genetic codes unlike anything on Earth. During these trips, she often thought of Leary, her childhood friend, though she did not know what became of the hatchling she saved. The memory of that day still brought a warm ache to her heart. At the Institute, administrative duties often weighed on her. Meetings with funding boards, reports to planetary authorities, and debates over ethical treatment of alien life forms consumed much of her time. Yet her passion never dimmed. When the day's obligations ended, she retreated to her private study overlooking the river delta. There, she read ancient texts on xenobiology, scribbled notes on new theories, and sometimes whispered stories of distant planets to herself, imagining she spoke to an unseen companion. Back on the Celestial Dove, Ixtar's envoy prepared for a closer approach. A small team of cultural experts, fluent in human standard, and 2 medical officers ready to offer assistance would land under a guise of scientific exchange. They would visit the Institute and speak of mutual interests, hoping to learn more about Mira's work without revealing their true purpose. Ixtar watched the preparations from her private chamber, weighing each decision. The risk of exposure was high, but the reward, the reunion she craved, was greater. On a bright morning, the cultural envoy descended in a silver shuttle at Aurum Research's landing pad. Staff and students gathered to watch as the vessel touched down without fanfare. The envoy disembarked in plain uniforms marked only by a small emblem of a silver star. They introduced themselves as researchers from the Nova Concord, a neutral scientific coalition. Their leader, Dr. Asha Marin, spoke pleasantly about joint projects. Mira, ever gracious, welcomed them with polite curiosity. Over the next days, Dr. Marin and her team toured the labs, asked thoughtful questions, and carefully observed Mira's methods. They praised her techniques, the clarity of her lectures, and the compassion she showed her alien subjects. Mira found them engaging but unremarkable, just another delegation interested in collaboration. She noted their genuine interest in behavior studies and offered to share her data on the nocturnal patterns of the forest salamanders. She did not suspect that each question, each compliment, was a step closer to unveiling her past. Late one evening, Mira stayed behind in the lab to finish analyzing samples. The corridors were empty, and only the soft hum of cooling systems broke the silence. Dr. Marin appeared without warning at the doorway, holding a small hollow tablet. "Mira," she said, voice low, "I have something for you." She tapped the device, revealing a recorded message, an ancient archive of the Frontier Outpost's logs. On the screen flickered a young human child tending to an injured alien hatchling. Mira froze, the image sending a jolt through her memory. "Where did you get this?" Mira whispered, stepping closer. Dr. Marin inclined her head. "Our Empire's archives. We believe you know this creature." Mira's heart pounded. She recognized her own voice, her small hands. Tears welled in her eyes as she saw Leary's fragile wing and the light in those dark eyes. "Leary?" she breathed. The image dissolved into static, leaving only silence and the two women in the empty lab. Across the galaxy, aboard the Celestial, Dove Ixtar felt a pulse of connection, an echo of joy and hope. The moment was near. She prepared to depart at first light, leaving only the smallest of contingents to maintain the facade of exchange. She would come herself to stand with Mira, to speak the words long held in her heart. But for now, she waited, patient as the stars themselves, trusting that kindness, her guide, would lead her home. The silver shuttle slipped through Solus Prime's upper atmosphere like a silent bird. Inside, Empress Ixtar stood in plain attire, her regal armor hidden beneath a muted cloak. Beside her, Captain Jal and two Imperial officers sat in tense silence. The planet's blue-green curve filled the viewport, and beneath drifting clouds lay forests, rivers, and the glittering spires of the Aurum Research Institute. Every mile brought Ixtar closer to the human who once saved her life. And yet she felt a flutter of nerves, as if she were a child taking her first steps. Moments before landing, Ixtar breathed deeply. She let her thoughts drift to that distant memory. Mira's gentle hands, the hatchling's grateful eyes, the first beat of a healed wing. Compassion had guided her path then, and now it guided her again. She glanced at Captain Jal. "We go as friends," she said softly. "No weapons, no fear." The shuttle touched down on a quiet landing pad beside the main laboratory wing. Security personnel in bright uniforms watched curiously as 5 figures emerged. The Imperial officers wore simple badges bearing the symbol of the Nova Concord, the peaceful coalition they claimed to represent. Ixtar kept her hood low and her voice gentle as she followed them across polished stone. Inside the Institute, corridors hummed with activity. Scientists hurried between labs carrying samples and data tablets. Mira's voice echoed through a glass panel down the hall, lecturing a group of students about alien limb regeneration. Ixtar paused, listening to the warmth in Mira's tone. Each word reminded her of the child's laughter in the ferns. Captain Jal led the way to a conference room. There, Dr. Asha Marin greeted them with practiced calm. Mira was due to arrive for a private meeting in 10 minutes. Ixtar took a seat at the long table, her posture dignified yet relaxed. She studied the walls lined with framed discoveries, microscopic images of alien cells, diagrams of star maps, and a single photograph of Mira as a young girl, her hair tied back in a ponytail, eyes bright with wonder. When Mira entered, Ixtar felt her breath catch. The xenobiologist was tall and composed, her dark hair swept back from a kindly face. She nodded politely to Dr. Marin, then turned to the new delegates. "Welcome," she said. "How can I help you today?" Ixtar studied Mira's profile, the gentle curve of her cheek, the thoughtful crease at her brow when she focused. Mira's life had unfolded here. Endless days of study, moments of quiet joy, challenges met with steady resolve. Yet none of that matched the fearless kindness of the child who had saved an alien hatchling so many years ago. Dr. Marin began with formalities, shared goals for research, notes on protocols, praise for Mira's achievements. Only when the talk had warmed did she gesture to Ixtar. "Mira, this is Dr. Leary, a member of the Nova Concord delegation." Ixtar rose, withholding her title. "It is an honor to meet you," she said in soft human standard. Her voice was calm, but her heart raced. She held out her hand. Mira looked surprised, then accepted it. The two hands, human and alien, resting briefly in shared greeting. "Thank you for inviting us," Ixtar continued. "I have heard much of your work." She offered a gentle smile. "Your kindness to all life inspires us." Mira's brow lifted. "Thank you. I try to give every creature a fair chance." She studied Ixtar's face, sensing something familiar yet beyond her grasp. "Your title, Dr. Leary. It is an unusual name." Ixtar's chest tightened. Here lay the moment of choice. She could keep her identity hidden, prolong the careful dance, but her heart would not rest. "Leary," she repeated, "was my friend long ago, a creature I once cared for." Mira's eyes widened. "Leary, you saved me." The words tumbled from her lips in astonishment. Her hand trembled as she reached up to touch the silver clasp of Ixtar's cloak. Ixtar let her cloak fall away, revealing the royal insignia of the Ixtar Empire etched into her breastplate. The room fell silent. Mira stepped back, eyes wide. You are the queen." Ixtar inclined her head, her dark eyes luminous with emotion. "I am Empress Ixtar, and you are Mira Andal. You saved my life when I was a hatchling." Mira's breath caught. She remembered that moment, as a child's dream, a distant echo. Tears filled her eyes as the truth bloomed in her heart. I can't believe it." Ixtar crossed the room in 2 strides and knelt before Mira, placing a hand on her knee in a gesture of respect. "Your gift of kindness shaped my life. Because of you, I lead with compassion. I owe you more than words can express." Mira knelt too, her tears falling freely. "I never imagined," she began, voice trembling. "I thought you were gone forever. No one believed me that day." Ixtar smiled, the gesture softening her regal bearing. "I remembered. I searched the stars to find you." She rose gracefully and offered Mira her hand again. "May I walk with you in the gardens?" Later, in the Institute's glass garden overlooking the river delta, the two walked side by side. Bioluminescent vines curled around arches and soft, light filtered through tinted panels. Ixtar spoke of distant worlds and imperial duties. Mira shared stories of her research and her dreams for peaceful contact between species. They discovered that, despite millennia of separation, their bond remained strong. Mira's simple act of care had shaped an empire. Ixtar's vast reach now offered hope for new alliances and shared knowledge. As twin moons rose outside the window, the two friends clasped hands, united across the void by an unbreakable bond of compassion. In that quiet garden, under the gentle hum of alien lights, the alien queen and the human xenobiologist embraced, a future crafted by kindness, a future where the ripple of a childhood act reshaped the destiny of worlds. Under the twin moons of Solus Prime, the glass garden glowed with soft blues and greens. Empress Ixtar and Mira Andal stood side by side beneath an arch of bioluminescent vines. The gentle hum of the Institute's life support systems blended with the whisper of wind through the leaves. In that quiet moment, two lives, once separated by time and space, joined anew. Ixtar turned to Mira, her dark eyes reflecting the moon's light. "I wish to repay your kindness," she said. "You saved me when I was small. Now it is my honor to help you and your people." Mira looked at the regal figure beside her, the cloak of an alien sovereign resting lightly at her shoulders. She closed her eyes, letting the reality of the moment settle. "I never knew what became of you," she whispered. "I feared you might have perished." The Empress reached out and took Mira's hand. "Your care gave me life," she said softly. "I have lived, grown, and learned, but I would not be here without you." A soft chime from the conference room signaled that dignitaries from both the Ixtar Empire and Solus Prime had gathered for a formal ceremony. Delegates filled the hall, human scientists and statesmen in crisp uniforms, alien nobles in flowing robes of starlight fabric, and scholars from distant worlds invited by Ixtar's decree. The grand celebration would mark the forging of a new alliance, the first time a human world and the Ixtar Empire entered into equal partnership. Together, Ixtar and Mira walked down the marble path leading to the hall. The crowd fell, silent as they appeared side by side. At the front stood Governor Aratal, the planetary leader of Solus Prime, and Lord Rahel, Ixtar's chief advisor. Both offered respectful bows. Governor Tal spoke first. "Today, our world welcomes the Empress of the Ixtar Empire. We celebrate not only her presence but the bond that unites us. From this day forward, Solus Prime and the Empire shall share knowledge, resources, and friendship." Mira stepped forward. Her voice, normally soft, carried clear through the hall. "I stand before you humbled. What began as a simple act of compassion has grown into a promise of hope for all species. Let us honor that promise by working together, with respect and understanding." Ixtar raised her hand, and light from the crystalline crown at her brow cast gentle reflections across the room. "I pledge the full support of my empire to your people," she declared. "May this day mark the dawn of a new era, one where kindness guides our choices and alliance shapes our future." Applause filled the hall, rising like a wave. Delegates stepped forward to speak words of welcome and friendship. Human ambassadors offered new trade agreements. Alien scholars spoke of joint research into healing technologies. Children of both worlds, invited by Ixtar, presented gifts, a bouquet of earth roses and a crystal sculpture that shimmered like the Veil Nebula. After the ceremony, the guests moved to a wide terrace overlooking the river delta. Long tables held dishes from human kitchens and recipes from alien worlds, a feast of flavors and colors. Laughter and conversation wove through the night air as stars shone overhead. Ixtar and Mira found a quiet corner near a reflecting pool. The twin moons glowed silver on the water's surface. Mira smiled, her eyes bright. "This is more than I ever imagined," she said. "I dreamed of finding you again, but I did not dare hope for an alliance on this scale." Ixtar rested a hand on Mira's shoulder. "Your act taught me the value of compassion. I used my power to spread peace and prosperity. Now together, we can reach farther than ever before." Mira looked up at the stars. "What comes next?" she asked. "The first step," Ixtar replied, "is the Joint Institute of Compassionate Science." She pointed across the terrace, where a group of human and alien researchers were deep in discussion. "We will build a new campus here on Solus Prime, where minds from all worlds can work side by side. We will study life, share technology, and heal what was broken." Mira's heart fluttered with excitement. "And the frontier outpost, the place where we met?" Ixtar smiled softly. "I have already sent a mission to restore it. It will become a heritage site, preserved as a symbol of what one act can achieve." Together they stood in silence, letting the significance sink in. A falling star of memory had become a beacon guiding two civilizations toward unity. Later, as the celebration drew to a close, Ixtar led Mira to the Institute's rooftop observatory. A massive dome of transparent alloy protected them from the night chill. Inside, giant telescopes pointed toward distant galaxies. Ixtar guided Mira to the controls. With a soft click, the telescope turned, revealing a view of the Helian frontier, the dusty plains where Mira had once found a wounded hatchling. The image shimmered on a display, twin suns above a barren landscape, the silver ferns waving gently. Mira felt tears gather. "It's still there," she whispered. Ixtar nodded. "And now it will be remembered forever." Mira placed her hand on the console. "Thank you," she said simply. Ixtar stood close, her presence warm. "No," she corrected. "Thank you, Mira, for showing me the true meaning of strength." In that moment, amid the hum of machines and the glow of faraway stars, two friends stood united across lifetimes. Their journey had traveled the void between galaxies and the depths of the heart. A child's simple kindness had grown into an empire's guiding light, and together they would carry that light forward. And so, under alien skies and human moons, the alien queen and the human who saved her began a new story. One of hope, of shared dreams, and of endless stars waiting to be explored side by side.